Welcome, IT changemakers, to the Dex Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
Hello, changemakers. Welcome to the Dex show within a show. It is, of course, Reality Bytes, and I think we have we do have a full Reality Bytes team for you all, the full panel in the house. So that's Dina, Megan, Oriana, Sean, and of course Tim. And it's for a special and sad occasion, which is, as listeners to the show last week will already know, Tim Flower leaving us. He's only got one episode left, everybody. And so we all wanted to come together. We had a couple of things on the docket today to discuss, but first and foremost is obviously it's one of the things about having two podcasts in one, as our listeners are so lucky to receive, is you gotta take leave of treasured members of the team twice, and that's what we got to do ever so, however briefly or long or lengthily, Tim, as you prefer, sir. Today we got to take leave of you with the whole Reality Bytes team here, of which you are such a critical and valued member, sir.
Yeah, and I said it just a minute ago, Tom, before we started recording. I'm comfortable with the spotlight, but that allows me to talk about other people and other things. I'm not comfortable with the spotlight on me. So I appreciate it all, but I will live through it in a little bit of pain.
Yeah. It is. That's the thing about having us, say goodbye a couple of times. It gets a bit depressing, doesn't it?
No, but it's not. So yeah, I'll start by saying, this, and I said it in our other show, this part of my role, being able to work with each of you, the best professionals in each of your roles that I could ever have imagined being able to work with. It's been such a huge part of my career here. It's given a platform to talk about things. I enjoy working with each and every one of you, and I'm going to miss it hugely.
Yes, we will miss you a lot, Tim. Like it's been a good ride since day one. But even like the arguments and the counter arguments and everything. So we'll miss having you around, not just about these ones, but all of it. However, super, super happy for you.
Thank you, Dina.
Yeah, I'll echo that. It's going to definitely be a noted absence on the podcast, I think, the lack of Tim Flower's voice. Sorry, Tom, not that you don't fill his shoes lovely.
I know. I know it. All right. It's okay. I'm aware. And I've been made aware.
But that's the great thing about this group is we all have not only a unique sounding voice, but we all have a unique opinion in our voice. So that's the cool thing about having. And Tom, this was your brainchild of bringing us all together to share different.
Wow, Tim, you really can't have the attention on you, can you? You're like immediately diffused. Look, let's talk about Tada. Let's talk about everybody else. That's funny. No, but Tim, also on a personal note, I've been at Nexthink now for 4 years, and if I think about, like, when I joined Nexthink, right, I'd never worked in the IT space before. I didn't know anything about it. I was the nightmare that had to be told you have to turn your computer off and on again. Like, someone had to teach me that a restart was the thing you had to do. You are one of the people at Nexthink that helped me get acclimated and adjusted quickly, if I think back. I mean, you are one of the people that I learned the most from, both in, listening to the podcast and everything that you said on there when I first joined the company, but also just meeting you and talking to you. And you have such an approachable way about discussing complex issues, and you never made me feel like I was an idiot if I didn't know a term. So yeah, thank you. And you're definitely going to miss you around at Nexthink.
I appreciate that, Megan. You did the same for me. I was a fish out of water and still in many ways am in marketing. And everybody, including you, were always welcoming and helped me kind of get acclimated there. So it's a two-way street. Appreciate it.
Well, I'll jump in and echo everything as well, Tim. I know we already spoke. I'm not going to be in Lisbon next week to say goodbye. But again, such a joy and easy to work with. I think that's what we all ask for at a colleague. So you'll be my
Short ask for ease. Definitely.
Ease of use and listening to me. Yes.
Ease of use employee.
Exactly.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, definitely echoing what everybody else has said. It's going to be so different without you. I feel like you've been our steady anchor in a lot of ways.
So true.
Yeah. And also you have this amazing eagle eye view that has completely changed my perspective on how I think about industry and business. And it's really given me so much understanding of like how people in leadership need to think about the problems that we talk about on here all the time. And it's been really helpful for me to grow my own perspective. I feel like I've learned so much. Um, obviously that's the point of the podcast, right? Our listeners are learning from you, but I feel so lucky that I get to have the uncensored, unedited version where we get all of your thought process and your commentary. Um, it feels like, we get that little bit of extra Tim Flower that um, is really precious. So thank you so much for everything that you shared here and in general and working with us.
I appreciate that, Oriana. I gotta go get my box of tissues now. But
Oh,
also, very nice.
oh
Thank
my
you.
God, that was beautiful, everybody, and I'll save my version of it because we listeners, so Tim has one last show with us. That's a deck show, if you will, and that's going to be next week. So this is the Reality Bites goodbye, and I'm sure listeners are more than patient to take proper leave of such a stalwart, such a vital member of the team, and we've got such big shoes to fill here, as in the main show, and we'll reveal our plans to try and keep pace once we've said goodbye to Tim properly, which will be, as already teased, in Lisbon in person next week at the Nexthink kickoff, where we'll also be in a position to spill some of the secrets, to spill some of the upcoming big revelations and decks coming from Nexthink and into the industry this year. And one of them, I mean, we just had, I thought, look, before, a couple of other things to touch upon today. And I thought this is a great opportunity, Tim, to get your last Reality Bites hot take, which is on the Spark release, right? I'm calling it, Tim, the dawn of agentic IT. That's what I'm into. That's what I'm running with that. But maybe for listeners who haven't seen the news, who haven't heard of Spark, maybe give us the overview that you do so well and your own reflections on it at this kind of pivotal point for you, because it is a monumental release from Nexthink. It does point to the future of decks, I think, very firmly and clearly.
Yeah. When I hear agentic AI, I think of some kind of automation that's running in the back end, doing things for a sub process or something that's taking action in the back end. This is the front end of that, right? When I first started talking with our folks about the concept of Spark, the first thing that came to mind was, this will age me, but I'm sure it's up on YouTube. Go find the Saturday Night Live skit of the IT guy, and it's just the young kid, arrogant, he's angry, he's the employee isn't doing what they're supposed to do. He yells at him to move, and he sits in their chair. He types on the keyboard real fast, and he fixes
Shout out to our listeners. Shout out.
it. And hopefully some of the listeners will remember that too.
No way.
That was this takes all of the wealth of IT knowledge and it brings contextual information right to the employee, and gives them that ability. They've been kind of at the mercy of IT for decades. Something breaks and they're not technical for the most part, and this helps bridge that gap. When I first early on, when we were developing the deck score, and customers are saying, what would be really cool is to have a widget on my desktop that told me my score, my individual score for my machine. And while it was interesting, the question always is, then what? What's the employee going to do with their score? It doesn't, there's no, this was the time where you still had to go troubleshoot and actually go take action and fix things. Now it's the other way around. Now it's the score that doesn't really matter to the employee because they've got an IT partner built in with Spark. You just ask it, why did my PC just reboot? And it will go find the answer and fix it for you. So I think it's a really cool next evolution of where things are going.
I'm really excited to see how it's evolved because I started working with the product team right when we sort of just had the concept and we were trying to figure out, okay, what should it actually look like? What should it feel like? How it work? And one of the things we talked about were, what makes a good AI interaction? How do we create a good experience? How do we make sure that it's that feeling of seamless ease rather than that feeling of constantly having to rethink how you're even approaching and talking to a machine, right? It should feel really natural. And that's something that we're even still working on. So it's really fun to see the way we're taking all of the inputs, because we use Spark, right? I use Spark when I had slow internet a few weeks ago, and it helped me troubleshoot that. And so we're taking those experiences and using it to learn and iterate. And that's one of the really neat things about an AI tool, is that you're constantly evolving, you're constantly making it better.
I was about to say that it's an evolution. It seems to me that this is the normal way of evolving in how we are co-working with everything that we interact with. So it becomes very dynamic in your day-to-day, how you're not lost anymore, where you don't have to go, where do I open the self-service portal, or how do I reach out to fix and check, and actually, instead of just going into search and searching of my issue, instead of waiting in queue to be supported, you're being supported based on data that is actionable right away and that is really relevant, customized for you. This is where I see the power of Spark coming in place in the day-to-day interactions, and actually understanding more, not just fix my problem without me knowing what is that or how I can avoid it in the future.
To maybe add on the perspective of one of the employees who's not a technical person who's going to be using Spark. Um, for me, as a admittedly not super technical person, in my day-to-day role at Nexthink, right, like I'm head of content. So I basically make content and work with a team that makes content. I spend most of my day on Zoom calls, or the most technical software I use is either a project management tool or Microsoft Word, right? Like I'm not like a super advanced super user. I am also one of those people who if something goes wrong with my device, I'm going to try to work around it, unless I'm in the office and I can see Chris on our IT team and I can walk over to her and say, "Hey, Chris, what's going on?" If I can't do that, I'm unlikely to submit a ticket unless it's like really preventing me from getting my job done. For me, for AI and an AI agent, for me to want to use it, it has to work. If it doesn't work, if I perceive it to just add more annoyance to my day, I'm definitely not going to use it. So they put Spark on our devices here. We were sort of, beta testing, helping them develop the product. And we came back into the office in Boston after a summer off while we were moving offices. And first time I tried to connect to the printer, I couldn't connect. It wasn't working. My documents weren't going to the printer. I was like, oh, shoot. And I tried to figure it out myself. I couldn't really figure it out. I was like, oh my God, I can't figure out why I can't connect to the printer. And Chris from IT, she wasn't in the office. So I couldn't go over to Chris and be like, Chris, I can't use the printer. Help.
And Spark
And
said, "What do
so-
you think I am, a miracle worker?" Like, come on.
On the contrary,
Printers? No.
Tom.
Right, no.
On the
For real.
contrary, I
On the
go to
contrary,
Spark and I'm
amazing.
like, yeah, on the contrary, I go to Spark and I'm like, I can't connect to the printer, help. And it very quickly was like, let me review your device. And it comes back and it's like, hey, it looks like your Zscaler needs to be updated or whatever. You have to be. And then it informed me. Well, right, yeah, I was delinquent on updating some stuff, but it informed me really not what this is what I liked about the interaction was it was like to connect to the office printer across Nexthink, you have to be connected to Zscaler VPN. If you're not going to be connected to the printer. Why don't you try that? And I tried, and lo and behold, it works. And then, Spark said, "Hey, did that work?" And I said, "Yes, it did." And then it kind of just like boop, went away. So it was so simple, and because it worked, I will say I am more inclined to use it in future. If it hadn't probably passed my first personal test of it, I might have been like, this AI agent is useless. But instead, it actually helped me. And I think what that also illustrates something we talk about is that's a ticket for IT that's probably just annoying because it's just employee education, right? It's just obviously you have to be connected to the VPN to use the hardware. So it's eliminating those tickets that for them are almost like a burden and a waste of time because it's, an uneducated, untechnical employee just being kind of like lost in the ecosystem. So I think it illustrates the simple power of a tool like this.
Clip it, ladies and gentlemen. The printer, she got attached to the printer in the office. It's incredible. It's a truly miraculous. Thank you, Megan. I'm gonna remember that myself. And I can't remember why I used it, but I've used it myself. It did the darn thing I wanted it to do. I think hopefully listeners can hear it in the panelists' response. I don't think there's been an excitement about a brand new product for the entire 6 years I've been here. And people are really buzzing about Spark. I know the customers who've already had a go on it already are buzzing about it, and there's a lot of interest about this product for very good reason. And we are going to be going into it in more detail, and we're going to be talking to the people who developed it and, if you will, invented it in the coming weeks. So keep your ear out for those episodes too. And thanks for everybody's contribution. A reminder that we have a really wonderful panel here, and hopefully we'll soldier on even without the anchor of the panel in Tim Flower. Want to hear from one last person today, and that's Sean, to talk a bit about your upcoming project, Sean. So you have a new ebook and a webinar coming up very soon with some customers. It's a really interesting topic, some really interesting insights. Why don't you set that up for people and tell them where they can learn more?
Sure. Yeah. Let me plug this. So in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see two projects come out, both related to the 2026 Trends and Predictions Report. The first one is an ebook that's encapsulating that information, where we've gone out into the field and spoken to some customers and some IT leaders to get their thoughts on what's around the corner. And we're well into 2026 now. And then we also have, in conjunction with the report, a webinar where we've spoken to two of our customers. That's hosted by our own John Cairns, Chief Customer Officer here at Nexthink. And I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation. We have that slated in the next couple of weeks to go out, the webinar. And without getting too far ahead of it, we're touching upon topics that are obviously relevant: AI, agentic AI, more so like people management and how to deal with some of this stuff off of the tool, and how to convince people and convince, buy-in throughout just not the IT department, but the organization. So stay tuned for those two projects that are coming out. You're going to want to listen to them, and you're going to want to read along.
I'm going to I think you can register for the webinar now, and I'll put a link in the show notes for that, Sean. One last teaser, Sean, for any particular hot takes you want to tease now. I think it's going to be in the report. I think you mentioned something from Guillaume, no, but that caught my ear last time we were speaking.
We did. Guillaume, I think, had my favorite quote out of everyone that we went to, our own Guillaume Charles, Senior Director of Product Management. He said, in 2026, already overwhelmed employees are going to face a new layer of complexity as AI tools and autonomous agents flood the digital workplace. So expecting everyone to navigate this alone is unrealistic. I think it just sets it up nicely for products like Spark, other products that we're working on, to try to figure out, there's a lot of opportunity, but also people are overwhelmed at times, I think it's fair to say. So
excellent. So more information from that, everybody, in the show notes. Do check it out. Always worth reading the Trends and Predictions reports we do at the beginning of the year. And it sounds like it's going to be a great presentation too. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everybody. And heartfelt thanks, most of all, to Tim Flower. Goodbye.
Bye, Tim.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how Nexthink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nexthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.